The security camera notification pinged on my phone at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. I was 300 miles away in Cleveland, stuck at a medical conference that had run 2 days longer than planned. Dr. Kevin Matthews here, orthopedic surgeon, married 15 years, father of 2, and apparently the world's biggest fool. I almost didn't open it. The app had been glitching all week, sending false alerts every time our golden retriever wandered past the motion sensors. But something made me tap the screen anyway. Maybe the same instinct that makes you look both ways even on a one-way street. The camera feed showed my bedroom, our bedroom, in grainy night vision. My wife Jenna was there, but she wasn't alone. A man I'd never seen before was climbing into our bed, the same bed where we'd conceived our daughters, the same bed I'd assembled 7 years ago after watching 3 YouTube tutorials. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone into the hotel toilet. I watched for exactly 43 seconds before my stomach lurched, and I had to look away. The timestamp burned into my brain. 2:47 a.m., March 12th. I was supposed to fly home tomorrow. Today, technically. My return flight was in 14 hours. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat on that hotel bathroom floor and opened my laptop, accessing the cloud storage for our home security system. I'd installed the cameras 8 months ago after our neighborhood had a string of break-ins. Jenna had complained they were an invasion of privacy. Now I understood why. The footage went back 30 days before the system auto-deleted. I started scrolling through the recordings, my medical training kicking in with clinical detachment. Document everything, gather evidence, treat it like a case study. March 11th, 2:15 a.m. The same man entering through our back door. Jenna meeting him in the kitchen, leading him upstairs. March 8th, 11:43 p.m. Again. This time they'd been careless enough to pass directly under the hallway camera. He was younger than me, maybe early 30s, wearing expensive clothes that suggested money. March 4th. Another visit. I kept scrolling back, my throat getting tighter with each discovery. The pattern became clear. He came on nights when I worked late at the hospital or had overnight shifts, sometimes twice a week. Once, horrifyingly, on a Sunday afternoon when I'd taken our daughters, Emma and Sophie, to their grandmother's house for the day. By 6 a.m., I'd documented 17 separate incidents over the past month alone. 17 times my wife had brought this stranger into our home, into our bed, while our children slept down the hall. I called the airline and changed my flight to the earliest departure, 8:30 a.m. Then I called my partner at the practice, Dr. Raymond Walsh, and told him I had a family emergency. Ray and I had built our orthopedic clinic from nothing 12 years ago. He was the closest thing I had to a best friend. "Everything okay?" His voice was rough with sleep. "No, I need you to clear my schedule for the rest of the week. Maybe longer." "Kevin, what's going on?" "I'll explain later. I need time." There was a pause. Ray knew me well enough to understand I didn't ask for things lightly. "Done. Whatever you need." The flight home felt like it took years instead of 90 minutes. I kept my phone in airplane mode, unable to stomach the thought of another notification, another glimpse into my imploding life. Instead, I made lists on the airline napkin. Facts, timelines, questions that needed answers. How long had this really been going on? Who was he? Did anyone else know? Were Emma and Sophie safe? That last question made my chest constrict. My daughters were 12 and 9, old enough to notice things, maybe old enough to have seen something. The thought of them being exposed to this, of their mother's betrayal contaminating their childhood, made me want to put my fist through the airplane window. I landed at 11:20 a.m. and drove straight home in the Audi I'd left in long-term parking. Our house sat in a quiet cul-de-sac in Westchester County, New York, a 4-bedroom colonial with good schools nearby and a backyard big enough for the girls to play soccer. I'd worked 80-hour weeks for years to afford this place, to give my family the life I'd never had growing up. Jenna's white Range Rover was in the driveway. The sight of it made my jaw clench. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, trying to decide on my approach. Confront her immediately? Play it cool and gather more information? Every instinct screamed at me to storm inside and demand answers, but my logical mind, the part that had gotten me through medical school and a brutal residency, urged caution. I pulled out my phone and checked the time. 11:47 a.m. The girls would be at school until 3:15. I had time. When I walked through the front door, Jenna was in the kitchen, wearing yoga pants and one of my old college sweatshirts, scrolling through her phone while drinking coffee. She looked up and smiled, the same warm smile that had made me fall in love with her 17 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. "Kevin, you're home early. I thought your flight wasn't until this afternoon." She crossed the kitchen and kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't been desecrating our marriage bed while I was away saving someone's torn ACL. I stood in my own foyer, watching my wife smile at me like I was the highlight of her day. "You look exhausted," Jenna said, reaching up to touch my face. I managed not to flinch. "Was the conference that draining?" "Long couple of days." My voice sounded normal. Distant, like it belonged to someone else, but normal. "I'm going to grab a shower. I'll make you something to eat. You probably survived on conference food and airport coffee." I nodded and headed upstairs, each step requiring conscious effort. My medical training had prepared me for a lot of things: delivering bad news to patients, staying calm during emergencies, functioning on no sleep. It hadn't prepared me for this. For walking through my house knowing what I knew. For looking at the woman I'd built a life with and seeing a stranger. The shower was scalding. I stood under the spray until my skin turned red, trying to wash off the last 48 hours. It didn't work. Nothing was going to work. When I came down 20 minutes later, Jenna had made chicken and rice, one of my favorites. She'd set a place for me at the kitchen table, poured iced tea, even put out the cloth napkins we usually saved for when we had company. "The girls are at Emily's until 6, she said, sitting across from me. "I thought you might want some quiet time to decompress." Emily. Emily Patterson, Sophie's best friend from school. The mother I'd met at least a dozen school events, whose husband worked in finance. I wondered if Jenna had dropped the girls there before or after her individual lessons. The thought made the chicken taste like cardboard. "That was thoughtful," I said. "So tell me about Cleveland. How was Dr. Walsh's presentation?" She asked questions. Normal questions. The kind of questions a wife asks her husband about a work trip. I answered them, hearing myself describe sessions I'd attended, colleagues I'd run into, a new surgical technique being pioneered at Johns Hopkins. The conversation flowed like it always did, like nothing had changed, like she hadn't brought another man into our bed 17 times in the last month. My phone buzzed. A text from Raymond. "You okay?" "Fine," I typed back under the table. "We'll call later." "Work?" Jenna asked. Raymond checking in on a patient. She nodded, taking a sip of her tea. "Oh, I meant to tell you. I signed up for those cooking classes I mentioned, the Italian cuisine series at the community center." The chicken turned to ash in my mouth. I set down my fork carefully, precisely, the way I'd set down surgical instruments thousands of times. "That's great," I said. "When do they start?" "Next Tuesday evening, 6 to 8:30. I'm really excited about it." Her face was animated, genuine. "I thought it would be nice to expand my repertoire. Maybe surprise you and the girls with some new dishes." I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was wearing the same college sweatshirt from this morning, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. No makeup. She looked like she always looked on a Saturday afternoon. Like my wife. Like the mother of my children. Like someone I knew. "Sounds good," I managed. You don't mind handling the girls' bedtime routine on Tuesdays? Not at all, she smiled. You're the best. I know it's silly, but I've been feeling like I'm in a rut lately. This feels like something just for me, you know? Something just for her. Individual lessons. With travel. I stood up abruptly. I need to make some calls. Patient charts I need to review before Monday. Of course, I'll clean up here. I went to my study and closed the door. Sat in the leather chair I'd bought when we first moved into this house. Stared at the framed photos on my desk. Our wedding day, the girls as babies, last summer's vacation to Cape Cod. My hands were shaking again. I pulled out my phone and opened the security app. The live feed showed Jenna in the kitchen, loading dishes into the dishwasher. Humming. I could see her lips moving. She was humming while she cleaned up lunch for the husband she was betraying. I scrolled back through the footage. Not to the bedroom this time, to the living room, the kitchen, the front hallway. Watching Jenna move through our house on the days I'd been working late, looking for something, some sign, some tell that would have warned me. There was nothing. She cooked dinner, helped the girls with homework, watched television, texted on her phone, and now I wondered who she was texting, what she was saying. On March 8th, she'd FaceTimed with her sister in Portland for 40 minutes, laughing about something their mother had said. 3 hours later, he was in our bedroom. How did someone do that? How did someone compartmentalize so completely? My phone rang. Raymond. You home? He asked when I answered. Yeah. How's it going? She just told me she signed up for cooking classes. I heard the flatness in my own voice. Italian cuisine, Tuesday evenings. Raymond was quiet for a moment. Kevin. I need a lawyer, I said. Not for the confrontation, not yet. But I need to know where I stand, what I need to protect. The girls, the practice, the house. Everything. I know someone, Daniel Foster. He handled my cousin's divorce 2 years ago. Tough, smart, discreet. Can you send me his information? I'll text it to you right now. He paused. You want me to come over? I can be there in 30 minutes. No. The girls will be home soon. I need to… I didn't know how to finish that sentence. I understand. But Kevin? Don't do anything without talking to the lawyer first. Don't confront her. Don't move money. Don't change anything. Just document and wait. I know. I'm serious. I've seen guys lose everything because they acted on emotion instead of strategy. I said I know. The words came out harder than I intended. Okay, call me if you need anything. Anytime. After we hung up, I sat there staring at my phone. Daniel Foster's contact information appeared in my texts. I saved it to my contacts, then opened my notes app and started typing. March 14th, 3:47 p.m. Jenna mentioned cooking classes. Italian cuisine series, Tuesdays 6 to 8:30 p.m. starting next week. Community center. I was documenting my own life now. Treating my marriage like a case study. It was the only way I could function. A noise from downstairs, the front door opening. High voices, young and bright. Dad! Dad, you're home! Sophie's voice. I closed my eyes, took 3 deep breaths, and stood up. By the time I reached the top of the stairs, both girls were looking up at me. Emma with her phone in her hand, Sophie still wearing her soccer cleats, tracking mud onto the hardwood floor Jenna and I had refinished ourselves 5 years ago. Hey, kiddo, I said, and Sophie launched herself up the stairs into my arms. She smelled like grass and sweat and strawberry shampoo. 12 years old and still young enough to hug her father without self-consciousness. I held her tight, looking over her head at Emma, who was watching us with the careful assessment of a preteen who'd learned that parents were fallible. How was Emily's? I asked. Good. We practiced penalty kicks. I made 7 out of 10. That's my girl. Jenna appeared at the bottom of the stairs. Sophie, shoes off. You're destroying the floor. Sorry, Mom. Sophie wriggled out of my arms and started unlacing her cleats. I looked at Jenna. She looked back at me. For just a second, I thought I saw something flicker across her face. Uncertainty, maybe. Or guilt. But then it was gone, replaced by that same warm smile. "Girls, why don't you get cleaned up?" she said. "We're doing taco night." They thundered down the hallway toward their rooms, the house filled with the sounds of normal family life, doors closing, water running, Emma's music starting up. Jenna came up the stairs, stopped 2 steps below me, which put us at eye level. "You sure you're okay?" she asked quietly. "You seem off." I looked into her eyes. Brown eyes I'd looked into across a college coffee shop 16 years ago. Eyes I'd looked into when she told me she was pregnant with Emma. Eyes I'd looked into in hospital rooms and at altar and across dinner tables and in the darkness of our bedroom. "Just tired," I said. She reached out and squeezed my hand. "Get some rest before dinner. I've got everything handled." "I'm sure you do," I thought. But what I said was, "Thanks." And I went back to my study to wait for Monday, when I could call Daniel Foster and start figuring out how to dismantle the life I'd spent 15 years building. The cooking school was in a converted brownstone in Brooklyn, 23 miles from our house. I found it online Tuesday afternoon. Bella Cucina Cooking Academy, established 2018, offering everything from basic knife skills to advanced French technique. Their website showed bright photos of couples laughing over pasta dough, friends sharing wine while something simmered on professional grade ranges. Jenna had mentioned it casually Sunday morning while making pancakes for the girls. "I signed up for those cooking classes I told you about. Starts tonight, actually. Tuesday evenings, 6 to 9. I'd nodded, sipped my coffee. "That's great. What kind of cooking?" "Italian mostly. Basics first, then we'll move into regional specialties." She'd flipped a pancake, completely at ease. I thought it'd be nice to expand my repertoire beyond chicken and pasta. The same instinct that made me review 30 days of footage made me call Bella Cucina at 4:15 p.m. Tuesday. Professional curiosity, I told myself, just confirming details. "Hi, I'm calling about my wife's enrollment," I said to the woman who answered. "Jenna Matthews. She mentioned starting tonight." Keys clicking. "Matthews, let me check our system." A pause. "I'm showing a Jenna Matthews registered for our Tuesday evening series, but she canceled her participation yesterday. Received a full refund minus the processing fee." My hand tightened on the phone. "She canceled?" "Yes, sir. Yesterday afternoon, around 2 o'clock. More clicking. "Actually, I'm seeing a note here. She transferred the credit to our private instruction program instead. Looks like she booked a series of individual lessons." "Individual lessons?" "Yes, our one-on-one instruction option. More personalized attention, flexible scheduling. Some clients prefer it." The woman's tone brightened, moving into sales mode. "We can arrange lessons at our facility or, for an additional fee, our instructors can travel to the client's home. Looks like Mrs. Matthews selected the travel option." The bathroom floor in Cleveland had been cold tile. This felt worse somehow. Standing in my home office looking out at the backyard where Sophie's soccer ball sat in the grass, while this cheerful stranger confirmed what I already knew. "When is her first lesson scheduled?" My voice came out level. "Clinical detachment, that useful shield." "Let me see. She hasn't scheduled specific dates yet. The travel package requires 48 hours notice for booking. She has 10 sessions credited to her account, each 3 hours long. Quite a comprehensive package. 30 hours. At what rate, I wondered? 200 per hour? 3? Plus travel fees. And the instructor comes to the client's home? That's correct. They bring all necessary ingredients and equipment. It's very popular with our busy clients who prefer privacy." She paused. "Is there anything else I can help you with? Are you interested in classes yourself?" The question struck me as darkly funny. Actually, yes. Do you have availability in tonight's group session? The Italian Basics class? Let me check. Yes, we have 2 spots left. It's $175 for the single session, or you can enroll in the full 8-week series for $200. I'll take the single session. Wonderful. Name? I almost said Kevin Matthews, then caught myself. Kevin Marshall. My mother's maiden name, pulled from nowhere. I'll pay when I arrive. Perfect. Class starts at 6, but we ask students to arrive by 5:45 for setup. The address is... I wrote it down, though I'd already memorized it from the website. At 5:32 p.m., I texted Jenna. Running late at the office, don't wait up for dinner. Her response came immediately. No problem. I'm heading to class soon anyway. There's leftover lasagna for the girls. I'd already arranged that part. Raymond's wife, Michelle, had picked up Emma and Sophie after school, planned to keep them for dinner and a movie. Take all the time you need, she'd said when I called, asking no questions. Raymond had clearly briefed her. The drive to Brooklyn took 47 minutes. I parked 3 blocks away, arriving at 5:43 p.m. Bella Cucina occupied the ground floor of a renovated brownstone, large windows revealing a gleaming kitchen visible from the street. Professional ranges, a marble-topped island, copper pots hanging from a rack. Through the glass, I could see people already gathering. A couple in their 60s, 2 women who looked like sisters, a nervous-looking guy about my age clutching a bottle of wine. No Jenna. I waited until 5:51, then went inside. The instructor was a woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, wearing a white chef's coat. Welcome, you must be Kevin. She shook my hand warmly. I'm Angela Russo. First time taking a cooking class? First time, I confirmed. Don't worry, we keep it fun and low pressure. Grab an apron from the hooks there, pick a station. We'll get started in a few minutes. I chose a spot at the island with a clear view of the door, tying on a black apron that said Bella Cucina in script across the chest. The other students introduced themselves, the couple celebrating their 40th anniversary, the sisters planning a trip to Tuscany, the nervous guy whose girlfriend had broken up with him because he couldn't cook anything except ramen. At 5:58, the door opened. A woman entered, blonde, late 30s, wearing expensive athleisure and carrying a designer bag. Not Jenna. At 6:02, Angela clapped her hands. All right, everyone, let's get started. Tonight we're making fresh pasta from scratch. Fettuccine with a classic Alfredo sauce, plus a simple arugula salad. By the end of class, you'll have the confidence to impress anyone with an authentic Italian dinner. She walked us through the basics, the ratio of flour to eggs, the technique for kneading, the importance of resting the dough. My hands moved automatically, forming the well in the flour, cracking eggs into the center. The other students chatted, laughed, asked questions. I kept watching the door. At 6:47, during a lull while our dough rested, I approached Angela. Question about your private instruction program. Of course. Are you interested in booking some one-on-one sessions? Possibly. My wife mentioned she'd signed up for the travel option. Jenna Matthews? I was thinking of surprising her, maybe joining one of her lessons. Angela's expression shifted, professional warmth cooling slightly. I'm sorry, I can't discuss other clients' bookings, privacy policy. But if you're interested in private instruction yourself, I'd be happy to... She's my wife, I said quietly. I'm just trying to understand what she's signed up for. I understand, but I still can't share client information without consent. Her tone remained pleasant but firm. If Mrs. Matthews wants to include you in her lessons, she'd need to contact us directly to modify her booking. Dead end? I nodded, returned to my station. The rest of the class passed in a blur. We rolled out pasta, cut it into ribbons, boiled it to al dente perfection. The Alfredo sauce came together. Butter, cream, parmesan, technique over complexity. Angela praised my knife work on the arugula. The anniversary couple invited everyone to taste their creation. At 8:47, we sat at a communal table, eating what we'd made. The pasta was good, genuinely good. Under different circumstances, I might have enjoyed this. So what made you decide to take a cooking class? The nervous ramen guy asked me. I looked down at my plate, the fettuccine I'd made with my own hands in a place my wife had lied about attending. Wanted to learn something new, I said. Expand my skills. At 9:03, I was back in my car. The container of leftover pasta Angela had insisted I take sitting on the passenger seat. I sat there for 11 minutes, watching other students exit, watching Angela lock up and walk to a Honda Civic parked behind the building. My phone buzzed. Jenna. Class was amazing. Learned so much. Heading home now. Love you. I started the engine. The drive home took 52 minutes in light traffic. I pulled into our driveway at 10:08 p.m. Jenna's car was already there, lights on in the kitchen. She looked up when I entered, smiling. Hey, how was work? Long. I set my keys on the counter, noticed her purse, her coat draped over a chair. How was class? Really great. We made fresh pasta tonight. Fettuccine. The instructor was wonderful, very patient. She moved to the refrigerator. Are you hungry? I can heat up that lasagna. I'm fine. She studied me, head tilted. You look exhausted. Tough case. Not a lie. My marriage qualified as the toughest case I'd ever encountered. I might head up early. Okay. She crossed to me, kissed my cheek. Her lips were soft, familiar. 15 years of good-night kisses, and I couldn't tell anymore which ones were real. The girls are already asleep. Michelle said they had a great time. I nodded, started toward the stairs. Oh, Kevin, I turned. Thank you for being so supportive about the classes. I know Tuesday evenings are family time, but it means a lot that you're encouraging me to do something for myself. She looked sincere, genuinely grateful. I managed to smile. Of course, you deserve it. In our bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed, the same bed I'd watched on grainy footage, the same bed where everything I'd believed had been dismantled. I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app where I'd been documenting everything. Tuesday, March 15th, 9:47 p.m. Confirmed. Jenna canceled group cooking class, transferred payment to private travel instruction package. 30 hours of lessons, location, our home. Attended class myself under false name. Wife lied about attending, sent text claiming class was amazing. 30 hours of private instruction. 48 hours notice required for booking. I opened my calendar, looked at the coming weeks. My schedule, color-coded and detailed. Late surgeries on Thursdays. A conference in Boston in 2 weeks. The pattern she'd been using for a month, now extended, legitimized with a cover story about self-improvement. Downstairs, I heard Jenna moving around the kitchen, the familiar sounds of her nighttime routine. In 12 minutes, she'd come upstairs. In 17, she'd be in bed beside me. My phone buzzed. A calendar notification. Monday, 2 p.m., Daniel Foster, attorney. 41 hours until that meeting. I could wait 41 more hours. I deleted the notification and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, counting seconds until I heard her footsteps on the stairs. The cooking class ended at 9:30. I stayed behind, helping Chef Antonio clean up my workstation, a transparent excuse to avoid walking out with the other students. The last thing I needed was small talk about Tuesday's class while my wife was somewhere across town, receiving very different instruction. You did well tonight, Antonio said, wiping down the counter. Natural instinct for timing. That matters more than people think. Thanks. I scraped remnants of garlic and herbs into the trash. I'll see you next week. The drive home took 23 minutes. I pulled into our driveway at 10:04 p.m., parking beside Jenna's Audi. The house glowed warm through the windows. Living room lights on, kitchen light above the sink, creating that specific amber rectangle I'd seen 1,000 times coming home late from the hospital. Normal. Everything looked completely normal. I sat in my car for 47 seconds, hands still gripping the steering wheel, before forcing myself to move. Inside, I found Jenna curled on the couch in her yoga pants and one of my old college sweatshirts watching some home renovation show. A glass of white wine sat on the side table. She looked up when I entered, her face brightening with a smile that would have seemed genuine a week ago. "Hey, you're back early. How was the hospital?" I'd told her I had a late consult, another lie to match hers, stacking them up like bricks in a wall between us. Straightforward. Patient was more anxious than injured. I set my keys in the bowl by the door. The ceramic bowl Emma had made in 4th grade art class, lopsided and painted with uneven blue flowers. How was cooking class? The question came out smooth, conversational. My medical training serving me well. The same neutral tone I used asking patients about their pain levels. It was great. She tucked her legs underneath her, animated now. We made this amazing osso buco. Chef Marco demonstrated the technique for braising. You have to get the temperature just right or the meat gets tough. I took notes. She gestured toward her purse on the kitchen counter. I'm thinking I could try it this weekend. The girls might actually eat it if I... Chef Marco? I interrupted. She blinked. What? You said Chef Marco. I moved toward the kitchen, needing something to do with my hands. Opened the refrigerator. Stared at the contents without seeing them. That's his name? The instructor? Yeah, Marco Bellini. He's actually from Tuscany, trained at some famous culinary school in Florence. Her voice carried from the living room, casual and detailed. He tells these great stories about his grandmother's cooking. Tonight he was talking about how she used to... That's interesting. I grabbed a bottle of water I didn't want. What else did you make? Just the osso buco tonight. It's a complex dish, takes the whole 2 hours. But he said next week we're doing fresh pasta from scratch. I'm excited about that. The girls love pasta, and if I can make it homemade... She continued talking. I stood at the kitchen counter, water bottle sweating condensation onto my palm, listening to her construct this elaborate fiction. The details were impressive. Chef Marco's grandmother, the Tuscan culinary school, the osso buco braising temperature. She'd clearly prepared this story, maybe even researched it. Or maybe she'd actually learned these things from Antonio during a class she'd attended before canceling, using real information to sell the lie. Kevin, you okay? I realized I'd been standing motionless for too long. Fine, just tired. Come sit with me. She patted the couch cushion beside her. You've been working so hard lately. When's your next day off? I moved to the couch, sat in my designated spot, the corner where the cushion had molded to my shape over 15 years. Jenna shifted closer, tucking herself against my side like she'd done countless times before. She smelled like her usual shampoo, something with coconut and vanilla. No cooking smells, no garlic or herbs or braising meat. On the television, a couple argued about whether to keep the original hardwood floors or replace them with tile. The wife wanted tile. The husband insisted the hardwood had character, history. They compromised on refinishing. I was thinking, Jenna said during a commercial break, maybe we could plan a weekend away soon. Just us. My mom could watch the girls. We haven't done that in forever. Maybe. I kept my eyes on the screen. Work's pretty packed right now. I know, but you need a break. We need a break. Her hand found mine, fingers interlacing. Remember that bed and breakfast in Vermont we loved? We could go back there. Sleep in, have those amazing breakfasts, maybe do some hiking. She was planning a romantic getaway, while maintaining an affair that had brought a stranger into our bed 17 times in the past month. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. I'll check my schedule, I said. We sat there for another 20 minutes, watching people make decisions about countertops and backsplashes. Jenna finished her wine. I pretended to drink my water. The normalcy felt suffocating. This performance we were both giving, her unknowing, me hyper-aware of every gesture and word. At 11, she yawned and stretched. I'm exhausted. Coming to bed? In a bit. Want to check some emails first? Don't stay up too late. She kissed my cheek, her lips warm and familiar. Love you. Love you too. The words came automatically. I'd said them thousands of times. They'd meant something once. I listened to her footsteps on the stairs, the bathroom faucet running, the bedroom door closing. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the security app. The bedroom camera showed Jenna moving around, changing into her pajamas, the blue ones with white stars. She checked her own phone briefly, smiled at something on the screen, then plugged it into the charger on her nightstand. Within 10 minutes, she was in bed, reading. I switched to the saved footage folder, opened the file from tonight, 7:15 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. The timestamp showed 7:23 p.m. when a silver BMW pulled into our driveway. I'd seen this car before in the footage. Newer model, expensive. The man got out, early 30s, dark hair, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt, carrying a leather bag. He didn't knock, used a key. My stomach lurched. She'd given him a key to our house. They appeared in the kitchen camera at 7:26 p.m. Jenna wore different clothes than she had on now. A dress I recognized, navy blue with small flowers. She'd changed before he arrived, changed again after he left. They didn't head upstairs immediately. Instead, they moved to the kitchen. He set his bag on the counter, pulled out ingredients. She poured 2 glasses of wine. I watched them cook together. Actually cook. He demonstrated something with a knife, his hands guiding hers. She laughed, said something I couldn't hear. They moved around each other with easy familiarity, the comfort of people who'd done this before. The osso buco, the braising technique, the Tuscan grandmother's stories. He was teaching her. The private travel instruction wasn't just a cover story. It was real cooking lessons. In our kitchen, mixed with everything else. They ate together at our kitchen table at 8:47 p.m. Talked, drank more wine. At 9:15 p.m. he started cleaning up. She helped, their movements synchronized. At 9:32 p.m. he kissed her, long and slow, his hand cupping the back of her neck. At 9:38 p.m. his BMW backed out of our driveway. At 9:51 p.m. Jenna changed clothes in our bedroom, putting on the yoga pants and sweatshirt. Went downstairs, poured a fresh glass of wine, settled on the couch to wait for me. I closed the app. Set my phone face down on the coffee table. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator's hum and the settling sounds of an old colonial, creaks and shifts I'd learned to ignore over the years. Our house. The place where we'd brought our daughters home from the hospital. Where we'd celebrated birthdays and Christmases and ordinary Tuesdays. Where my wife cooked meals with her lover and then lied to my face about Chef Marco Bellini from Tuscany. My phone buzzed. A text from Raymond. Meeting confirmed Monday 9 a.m. Daniel's office downtown. I'll cover your morning patients. You good? I typed back, yeah, thanks. Another buzz. Immediate. Hang in there. I didn't respond to that one. What was there to say? Upstairs, the bedroom light went off at 11:34 p.m. Jenna going to sleep in our bed, probably exhausted from her evening of cooking and performance art. I stayed on the couch until 2:17 a.m., watching footage I'd already seen, documenting details I'd already documented, building a case that was already airtight. At some point, this would end. The pretending, the parallel realities, the careful choreography of lies. Monday, I'd sit across from Daniel Foster and start the process of dismantling 15 years of marriage. But tonight, I sat in the dark living room of my quiet house, watching my wife betray me in high definition and waited for morning. The cooking class met in a converted warehouse space in Williamsburg, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. I'd given the name David Clark when I registered online, paying the $180 fee for the 4-week series. Tuesday evenings, 7 to 9:30 p.m., exactly when Jenna said she'd be learning Italian cuisine in Brooklyn. I arrived at 6:52 p.m., early enough to observe but not so early I'd stand out. The space smelled like garlic and fresh herbs. 12 cooking stations lined the room, each with a gas range, prep area, and set of gleaming knives. A tall woman with gray hair twisted into a bun was arranging ingredients at the demonstration counter. "First time?" she asked, glancing up. Her name tag read, Instructor Maria. Yes, David Clark. She checked her tablet, made a mark. "Welcome. Grab Station 7. We're making fresh pasta tonight. Fettuccine with porcini mushrooms." I took my position at Station 7, watching the door. Other students filtered in. A young couple holding hands. 3 women who clearly knew each other, laughing about something. An older man with a serious expression and his own knife roll. 2 more women. A guy about my age wearing a Yankees cap. By 7:05 p.m., all 12 stations were occupied. No Jenna. I'd known she wouldn't be here. The phone call to Bella Cucina had confirmed it. But some part of me, the same part that had watched 17 security videos hoping to find evidence I'd misunderstood, had needed to see the empty space where she should have been. "All right, everyone," Maria called out. "Let's begin. Pasta is about feel, about understanding the dough. You can't learn it from a book or a video. You need to get your hands in it." She demonstrated the well technique. Flour mounded on the counter, eggs cracked into the center, fork gradually incorporating the flour from the inner walls. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. The dough should be smooth but not sticky, firm but not dry. You'll know it when you feel it. I cracked 3 eggs into my flour well. The yolks sat there, bright orange, perfect spheres. I picked up the fork and started mixing, watching the yellow gradually spread into the white powder. My phone was in my pocket, set to vibrate. The security app would alert me when anyone approached our house. I checked it in the parking lot. Jenna was home, visible in the kitchen camera making dinner for the girls. Chicken stir-fry from the look of it. Emma was setting the table. Sophie was doing homework at the counter. A normal Tuesday evening. Except her husband was in Brooklyn pretending to be someone else, learning to make pasta she'd never actually learned to make. "How's your dough coming, David?" I looked down. I'd been mixing on autopilot, my medical training taking over. The same precise repetitive motions I used for sutures. The dough was actually coming together nicely. "Good, I think." Maria came over, pressed her fingers into my dough. "Perfect texture. You've done this before?" "No, first time." "Natural talent, then." "Start kneading. 8 to 10 minutes. You want it elastic." I kneaded. Push with the heel of my palm, fold, quarter turn. Push, fold, turn. The rhythm was meditative. Around me, other students chatted while they worked. The couple was debating where to go for their anniversary. The 3 women were discussing someone's terrible boss. Normal people doing normal things. My phone buzzed. I wiped my hands on my apron, checked the screen. Motion alert. Front door. I opened the app, pulled up the live feed. 7:31 p.m. The silver BMW was pulling into my driveway. I watched him get out. Same guy, same confident stride. He was carrying something. I zoomed in as much as the camera allowed. A bottle of wine, a grocery bag. He walked to the front door, used his key. My hands were shaking. I set the phone on the counter, face down. "You okay?" The woman at Station 8 was looking at me with concern. "You went really pale." "Fine, just low blood sugar. Should have eaten lunch." "There's crackers and cheese in the break area. Maria won't mind if you grab some. Thanks. I'm okay. I picked up my phone again. Couldn't help it. The living room camera showed him greeting Jenna with a kiss. Not passionate, almost domestic. Like he'd just come home from work. Emma and Sophie were still in the kitchen, out of view. He set the wine and groceries on the coffee table, took off his jacket. David, your dough's ready for resting. Maria was beside me again. Wrap it in plastic wrap. Let it sit for 30 minutes while I demonstrate the rolling technique. I wrapped the dough. My hands were steady now, the same hands that had performed 3 knee reconstructions this week, that never trembled during surgery no matter how complex the procedure. Maria rolled out a sheet of pasta dough, explaining about thickness and texture. She fed it through a pasta machine, adjusting settings, creating long ribbons of fettuccine. The other students gathered around to watch. I stayed at my station, phone hidden behind my water bottle. The kitchen camera showed all 4 of them now. He was at the stove, my stove, sautéing mushrooms in a pan. Jenna was beside him, chopping something. Emma and Sophie had finished their homework and were watching, Sophie asking questions I couldn't hear, but could read in her animated gestures. He was teaching my daughters to cook. The realization hit like a physical blow. This wasn't just about the bedroom, about the violation of my marriage. He was integrating himself into their lives, playing house with my family. The key is not to overwork the dough after it's rested, Maria was saying. You want to handle it gently, respectfully. Pasta dough has memory. It remembers rough treatment. I checked the timestamp. 7:49 p.m. In my house, he was plating food. Jenna was pouring wine, the bottle he'd brought. My daughters were sitting at the table. Here, the woman at Station 8 was struggling with her pasta machine. It keeps tearing. What am I doing wrong? Maria helped her adjust the settings. You're rushing it. Take it through gradually. Thickness setting 6 first, then 4, then 2. Let the machine do the work. My dough had rested. I unwrapped it, cut it into quarters, started rolling. The pasta machine was identical to the one in my kitchen, the one I'd bought Jenna 2 Christmases ago, the one I'd assumed she'd never used because it had stayed in its box for months. Now I knew better. She'd used it. Just not alone. I fed the dough through. Once, twice, 3 times, making it thinner each pass. The sheet emerged smooth and even. I switched to the fettuccine cutter, cranked the handle, watched ribbons of pasta fall onto the floured surface. Beautiful work, David. Maria examined my pasta. Really excellent for a first attempt. You sure you haven't done this? I'm sure. At 8:15 p.m., Maria demonstrated the sauce. Porcini mushrooms rehydrated in hot water, their soaking liquid reserved for the sauce. Butter, shallots, cream, parmesan. Simple but precise. At 8:17 p.m., my phone showed him leaving our house. Kiss at the door, longer this time. Emma and Sophie were clearing the table in the background. He got in his BMW, backed out of the driveway. Duration of visit, 46 minutes. I made my sauce, tasted it. Added salt, black pepper. The mushroom flavor was earthy, rich. Around me, students were cooking their pasta, the room filling with steam and the smell of butter and cheese. Pasta water should be salty like the sea, Maria said, and save some before you drain. You'll need it for the sauce. I cooked my fettuccine. 3 minutes in boiling water. It floated to the surface, tender but still with bite. I drained it, reserved a cup of the starchy water, tossed everything together in the pan. Time to eat, Maria announced. Bring your plates to the tasting table. Let's see what everyone created. We gathered around the long communal table, 12 plates of fettuccine with porcini mushrooms. Maria went around, tasting each one, offering feedback. Too much salt, not enough pepper, perfect texture, sauce too thick. She tried mine, paused, took another bite. David, this is really exceptional. The pasta is cooked perfectly. You can see the bite marks where the teeth go through, but it's not mushy. And your sauce has beautiful depth. Are you sure you're not a professional chef? Orthopedic surgeon, actually. Well, you have excellent hands, and clearly an understanding of precision. I ate my pasta. It was good. Better than I'd expected. The kind of thing Jenna had been describing for weeks, telling me about her classes, about what she was learning. She hadn't been lying about the food, just about everything else. The class ended at 9:28 p.m. Students filed out, chatting about next week's lesson, risotto. Maria was cleaning up the demonstration area. I helped her load the dishwasher. You don't have to do that, she said. I don't mind. Therapeutic, actually. She smiled. Bad day? You could say that. Well, I hope you'll come back next week. You're a natural, and honestly, it's nice to have someone who takes it seriously. Some people treat these classes like a social hour. I'll be here. I drove home, arriving at 10:43 p.m. The house was quiet. Lights off downstairs. I could see the glow from Emma's room. She was probably reading past her bedtime again. Jenna was in the living room, curled up on the couch with her laptop. She looked up when I came in, smiling. How was your evening? Productive. You? Good. Made stir-fry with the girls. Nothing fancy. I hung up my coat. I can smell mushrooms, she blinked. What? Mushrooms. Porcini, if I'm not mistaken. Her face went carefully blank. Oh, yeah, I tried a new recipe. Added some to the stir-fry. Huh, didn't know you liked porcini. Trying new things. You know how it is. I did know. That was the problem. I went upstairs, checked on the girls, both asleep. Sophie was clutching her stuffed rabbit. Emma's book had fallen onto her chest, still open to page 247. In our bedroom, I pulled up the security footage from tonight. Watched the whole 46 minutes. Watched him teach my daughters to rehydrate dried mushrooms. Watched Jenna laugh at something he said. Watched them plate the food together, their movements synchronized like they'd done this 100 times. Maybe they had. My phone buzzed. Text from Raymond. How'd it go? I typed back. She wasn't there, but I learned to make pasta. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. That's weirdly poetic. You okay? Ask me Monday after I see the lawyer. Call if you need anything, seriously. I set the phone down. Jenna came in, started getting ready for bed. Normal routine, face wash, moisturizer, pajamas. She climbed in beside me, kissed my cheek. Love you, she said. I closed my eyes. You too. And somewhere in Brooklyn, Maria was probably cleaning the last of the pasta machines, thinking about the surgeon with good hands who'd made perfect fettuccine on his first try. She had no idea I was just following a recipe I'd already seen performed in my own kitchen. By someone else. With my wife. The cooking class ended at 9:30. I lingered, helping David, the real instructor, stack chairs and wipe down the stainless steel counters. He seemed grateful for the assistance, chatting about next week's lesson on fresh pasta. I nodded along, playing the role of the enthusiastic beginner, while my mind cataloged every detail I'd need for the attorney meeting Monday morning. My phone buzzed as I reached the parking garage. Jenna. How was your evening? I stared at the message. She knew I'd been at the hospital for evening rounds, or at least that's what I'd told her. The same lie she'd been telling me for weeks, just reversed. Long, complicated fracture case, just finishing up. Her reply came immediately. Poor baby. There's leftover chicken piccata in the fridge if you're hungry. Chicken piccata. I wondered if he'd taught her that one. If my daughters had watched him pound the cutlets thin, show Jenna how to get the lemon caper sauce just right. Thanks. Be home soon. I sat in my car for a long moment, engine running, heat blasting against the March cold. The cooking school's windows glowed warm above me. Inside, David was probably prepping for tomorrow's classes, completely unaware that one of his Tuesday students was living a double life, that her husband had stood in that very kitchen tonight, learning to make the same osso buco she'd supposedly been mastering for weeks. My phone buzzed again. Not Jenna this time. Raymond. You good? Yeah, heading home. Monday at 9. Don't forget. As if I could. Daniel Foster, Raymond's attorney contact. The meeting that would transform all this documentation into something actionable. The beginning of the end. I pulled out of the garage at 9:47. The drive from Brooklyn to Westchester took 53 minutes at this hour. I'd be home by 10:40, maybe 10:45, right on schedule for a surgeon finishing evening rounds. The highway was nearly empty. I merged onto the Cross Bronx, muscle memory guiding the Audi while my thoughts spiraled. In my pocket, my phone held the security app. I could open it right now, see if the silver BMW was parked in our driveway, see if Jenna was upstairs in our bedroom with him, or if tonight was one of the off nights. Tuesday, her supposed class night. Would he come on a night she was meant to be out? Or would that be too risky, too obvious if someone checked? I didn't open the app. I'd learned that much about myself over the past week. There were some things I couldn't watch while driving 70 miles per hour on a dark highway. Instead, I called Emma. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, Dad. Hey, sweetheart. Just checking in. Everything okay? Yeah, fine. Sophie and I are watching that baking show. Mom made chicken for dinner. The piccata? Uh-huh. It was really good. She's getting so much better at cooking. The knife twisted. That's great, honey. Those classes are really paying off. Totally. She made this mushroom thing last week that was amazing. Sophie actually ate mushrooms. Like voluntarily. The porcini lesson. I'd watched that footage 2 nights ago. Him at our stove, Jenna beside him, both my daughters perched on stools at the kitchen island. He'd been patient with them, explaining about the different types of mushrooms, letting Sophie smell the dried porcini before they went into the pan. Dad, you still there? Yeah, sorry. Signal cut out for a second. Listen, I'll be home in about 40 minutes. Don't stay up too late, okay? It's Friday, Dad. Right, still, not too late. Okay, love you. Love you too, Em. I ended the call and focused on the road. White lines blurring past. Exit signs for places I'd driven by 1,000 times. The Audi's clock read 10:18. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me hit the button. Dr. Matthews? Male voice. Unfamiliar. Professional. Speaking. This is Officer Brian Cooper with the Westchester County Police. There's been an incident at your residence. Your wife is fine, he added quickly, but we need you to come home. My stomach dropped. What kind of incident? A break-in, sir. Your wife called 911 about 20 minutes ago. She's unharmed and your daughters are safe, but we need you here. I'm 15 minutes out. What happened? Better if we discuss it when you arrive, Dr. Matthews. Your wife is giving her statement now. He ended the call. I pressed the accelerator. The Audi surged forward, engine responding instantly. 75. 80. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was racing through possibilities. A break-in. On a Friday night. When Jenna thought I was at the hospital. When she'd texted me about leftover chicken piccata, casual and normal. Had he been there? Had someone seen the BMW, called the police? Or was this something else entirely? An actual break-in, random and terrible? I took the exit doing 70, barely slowing for the turn. Our neighborhood appeared quiet as always. Tree-lined streets, well-maintained colonials. Good schools and low crime rates. That's what the realtor had said when we'd bought the house 12 years ago. 3 police cars sat in our driveway, lights off but presence unmistakable. The neighbors would be watching. Mrs. Patterson across the street. The Williamson family next door. Everyone would know that something had happened at the Matthews house. I parked on the street and walked up the driveway. A uniformed officer met me at the door. Dr. Matthews? Yes. Where's my family? Living room. Officer Cooper is with them. The house looked normal. No broken windows. No signs of forced entry. I stepped inside, and Jenna came rushing from the living room. Kevin, thank God. I was so scared. She threw her arms around me. I stood there, letting her hold me, aware of the officers watching. She was wearing yoga pants and my old college sweatshirt, the same outfit she'd worn in half the security footage. What happened? She pulled back, eyes wide. I was upstairs putting the girls to bed, and I heard something downstairs, like someone was in the house. I grabbed the girls and locked us in Emma's room and called 911. Officer Cooper appeared from the kitchen. Early 40s, solid build, the kind of cop who'd seen everything. Dr. Matthews, Brian Cooper. Your wife reported hearing an intruder around 9:45. We've searched the premises. No signs of forced entry. Nothing appears to be missing or disturbed. So there was no one here? We can't confirm that. But if there was, they left before we arrived. We got here within 6 minutes of the call. 9:45. I'd been pulling out of the Brooklyn parking garage at 9:47. The timing was tight, but possible. If someone had been here, they'd had a narrow window. The security system, I said. We have cameras. Jenna's face went carefully blank for just a fraction of a second. I forgot about those. Let's take a look, Cooper said. I pulled out my phone, opened the app. The other officers gathered around. Jenna stood slightly apart, arms crossed. I scrolled back to 9:30. The cameras covered the front door, back door, driveway, and, Jenna didn't know this yet, the bedroom and main hallway. 9:32. Nothing. 9:38. Nothing. 9:41. The back door opened. We all leaned in. A figure entered through the kitchen door. Male, early 30s, wearing dark clothing. He moved confidently, like he knew the layout. Like he had a key. There, Cooper said. Can you zoom in? I could. I zoomed in on the face I'd watched for hours over the past week. The man who'd been in my bedroom 17 times. Who'd taught my daughters to cook mushrooms. Who'd been sleeping with my wife in the bed where we'd conceived both our children. Do you know him? Cooper asked. I looked at Jenna. She was staring at the screen, face pale. No, I said. Never seen him before. The lie hung in the air for 3 seconds. Then I turned to Officer Cooper. Actually, let me check something else. I scrolled forward on the security footage. 9:43. The man moved through our kitchen, opened the refrigerator, closed it. 9:45. He walked upstairs. 9:47. He came back down, faster now, and left through the back door. He was looking for something, Cooper said. I switched cameras, bedroom footage. 9:46. The man entered our bedroom, went straight to Jenna's nightstand, opened the drawer, took something, left. Mrs. Matthews, check your nightstand, Cooper said. See if anything's missing. Jenna went upstairs. We heard her footsteps, the drawer opening. She came back down holding her jewelry box. My grandmother's bracelet is gone, the diamond one. Cooper nodded, making notes. We'll need a full description for the report. Dr. Matthews, can you send us that footage? Of course. They took statements. Asked about recent service people, contractors, anyone who might have had access to make a key. Jenna mentioned the plumber who'd fixed the guest bathroom sink 2 months ago, the landscaping crew, the house cleaner. No mention of private cooking instructors. The police left at 11:40 with promises to investigate, though Cooper's expression suggested he'd seen enough burglaries to know the bracelet was already gone. The neighbors had retreated inside. Our street returned to its usual quiet. I checked on Emma and Sophie. Both asleep despite the commotion, or pretending to be. I kissed their foreheads and went back downstairs. Jenna was sitting on the couch, hands shaking slightly. I can't believe someone was in our house, in our bedroom. I sat in the armchair across from her, not beside her. The distance felt important. Jenna, we need to talk. She looked up. I know, this is so scary. We should upgrade the security system, maybe get an alarm that… I know about Marco. The color drained from her face. What? Marco Bellini, the cooking instructor. Except his name isn't really Marco Bellini, is it? Because there is no Chef Marco from Tuscany. There's just him. I gestured toward the security system. The man who's been coming to our house while I'm at work. Who you gave a key to. Who's been in our bed. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Kevin. I've watched the footage, Jenna, all of it. The past month, every visit. I know he comes on Tuesdays when you're supposed to be at cooking class. I know he was here last Wednesday when I worked late. I know he's taught the girls to make porcini mushrooms. Her hands were covering her mouth now. Tears started streaming down her face. I know about the private lessons you booked, the 30 hours. I called Bella Cucina. I kept my voice level, clinical. I even went to the actual cooking class in Brooklyn, made fettuccine. It was good. The instructor said I was a natural. Please, she whispered. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I've documented everything. I'm meeting with an attorney Monday morning. Daniel Foster. Raymond recommended him. She was sobbing now. Kevin, please. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll end it. You gave him a key to our house. My voice stayed steady. You brought him around our daughters. You had relations with him in the bed where we conceived Emma and Sophie. And tonight, when he realized I'd found out, because he must have somehow, he broke in to take something. Evidence, probably. Something that connected him to you. The bracelet. Wasn't your grandmother's. I bought that bracelet for our 10th anniversary. You told the police it was your grandmother's so they wouldn't question why someone would know exactly where to find it. She crumpled forward, shoulders shaking. I stood up. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Monday, you'll receive divorce papers. Raymond's already helping me document everything for custody. Given the circumstances, the affair, the man you exposed our children to, the lies, I expect the court will be sympathetic. You can't take my girls, her voice was raw. Kevin, you can't. I can, and I will. You made choices, Jenna. Choices that put our daughters in proximity to a stranger. A stranger who had a key to their home. Who came into their lives without background checks, without any consideration for their safety. I walked toward the stairs, then stopped. The cooking lessons were real, at least. That chicken piccata was excellent. You actually learned something from him. Kevin? 15 years, I said quietly. We had 15 years, 2 beautiful daughters, a good life, and you traded it for cooking lessons and excitement. I went upstairs and packed a bag. Enough clothes for a few days. My toiletries. The framed photo of Emma and Sophie from my nightstand, not the one with Jenna in it. When I came back down, she was still on the couch, crying into her hands. I loved you, she said. I still love you. No, you don't. You love the life I provided. The house, the security, the status of being married to a surgeon. You just wanted something else on the side. I left through the front door and drove to the Marriott downtown. Checked in using my credit card. Sat in the generic hotel room and finally let myself feel it. The rage, the betrayal, the grief for what I'd lost. but only for an hour. Then I opened my laptop and started organizing files for Monday's meeting. The divorce took 7 months. Daniel Foster was everything Raymond had promised: sharp, strategic, and utterly ruthless when it came to protecting my interests. The security footage was devastating in court. Jenna's attorney tried to argue invasion of privacy, but the cameras had been installed for home security with Jenna's knowledge. The footage was admissible. The man's real name was Tyler Grant, 34, a sous chef at a restaurant in Manhattan, divorced once already. He'd met Jenna at a hospital fundraiser where he'd been catering. They'd exchanged numbers. It had started with coffee, progressed to the cooking lessons as a cover, and escalated from there. When the police tracked him down about the burglary, he claimed Jenna had given him the bracelet as a gift. She denied it. The case went nowhere, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. The judge awarded me primary custody. Jenna got alternating weekends and 1 evening per week. The house went to me. I'd paid the down payment and most of the mortgage. She got half the savings and her car. I kept my practice, my retirement accounts, my dignity. She moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in White Plains. Tyler Grant stopped returning her calls about 3 weeks after the police questioned him. Apparently, the excitement of an affair lost its appeal when it came with legal consequences and public exposure. Emma took it hard. At 14 now, she understood enough to be angry at both of us. At her mother for the betrayal, at me for ending the marriage. We started therapy together. It helped, slowly. Sophie, at 11, just wanted everything to go back to normal. I couldn't give her that, but I could give her stability, routines, dinner every night at 6, help with homework, soccer practice on Thursdays. I never went back to the cooking class in Brooklyn, though David sent me a friendly email asking if I'd be returning. I deleted it. But I did learn to cook. Really cook. I bought books, watched videos, practiced. Emma and Sophie became my sous chefs on weekends. We made mistakes, burned garlic, oversalted pasta, undercooked chicken. But we learned together. On a Tuesday evening in October, 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I made fettuccine with porcini mushrooms. Emma rolled out the pasta dough. Sophie rehydrated the mushrooms. We worked in comfortable silence, the kitchen warm and filled with good smells. "This is really good, Dad," Emma said when we sat down to eat. "Yeah," Sophie agreed. "Better than Mom's." I didn't correct her, though it wasn't true. Jenna had been a good cook, especially after her lessons. But my daughters needed to believe in something, and if that something was their father's cooking, I'd take it. 2 years after the divorce, I met someone, Dr. Lisa Sanchez. No, Lisa Warren. I'd learned my lesson about certain names. A pediatrician at the hospital, divorced herself, with a son, Sophie's age. We took it slow. Coffee first, then dinner, then eventually introducing the kids. Emma was skeptical. Sophie was cautiously optimistic. Lisa's son, Jake, just wanted to know if we had good video games. We didn't rush anything. No sleepovers when the kids were around. No talk of moving in together. Just dinners and movies and slowly building something real. Lisa knew my story. I'd told her everything on our 4th date, expecting her to run. Instead, she'd reached across the table and taken my hand. "My ex cheated too," she'd said quietly. "With his dental hygienist. Very cliché. I found out when she accidentally sent me a text meant for him." We'd sat there, 2 damaged people in a mediocre Italian restaurant, sharing war stories over chicken parmesan. "Did you ever forgive him?" I'd asked. "No, but I forgave myself for not seeing it sooner. That was harder." 3 years after the divorce, Jenna remarried. A banker named Robert, stable and boring, and exactly what she needed. He had no children of his own and seemed genuinely fond of Emma and Sophie. I was grateful for that at least. We managed civil conversations at school events, coordinated holidays, split birthdays. The girls adjusted, the way children do, creating separate lives in separate houses. Emma went to college, Sophie started high school. Life moved forward because that's what life does. I still have the security footage, backed up in 3 separate locations. I've never watched it again, but I can't bring myself to delete it. Evidence of what was. Proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't paranoid, wasn't imagining things. Sometimes late at night, I think about the moment I opened that notification in Cleveland. 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. The moment that changed everything. And I think about all the moments before it that I'd missed. The signs I'd overlooked because I was working 80-hour weeks, building a practice, providing for my family. The distance that had grown between us while I was focused on surgeries and patient care. I don't blame myself for her choices. She made them. She brought another man into our home, into our bed, into our daughter's lives. Those decisions were hers alone. But I learned something about trust, about vigilance, about the fragility of the things we build. 5 years after the divorce, on a Saturday morning in early spring, I'm making breakfast for Lisa and the kids. Pancakes, bacon, fresh fruit. The kitchen is warm and chaotic. Jake arguing with Sophie about whose turn it is to pick the music. Emma home from college for the weekend and stealing bacon from the pan. Lisa comes up behind me, wraps her arms around my waist. Smells good. Family recipe, I say, flipping a pancake. Your family or your ex-wife's cooking instructor's family? I laugh. It still stings a little, but I can laugh about it now. Mine. Hard won through trial and error. She kisses my shoulder and moves to pour coffee. I watch my daughters, both of them taller now, growing into young women. Emma's studying pre-med. Sophie wants to be a lawyer. They're strong, resilient, smarter than I was at their age. They survived their mother's betrayal. They survived the divorce. They survived the restructuring of their entire world. And so did I. The doorbell rings. Jake runs to answer it. Probably his friend coming over for basketball. Normal Saturday chaos. Normal life. I plate the pancakes and call everyone to the table. We sit together, this blended family I never expected to have, and I realize something. I won. Not because I got the house or primary custody or a favorable settlement. Not because Jenna lost her affair partner and her marriage and her easy life. I won because I'm here, in this kitchen, with people who choose me every day. Because my daughters know their father fought for them. Because I learned to cook, to heal, to trust again. The security cameras are still installed at the old house, our house, but I rarely check them anymore. I know what's there. Emma and Sophie on alternating weekends. Sometimes Jenna and Robert stopping by to pick them up. The past stays in the past, recorded and filed and stored away. And the present? The present is pancakes on Saturday morning, and Lisa's hand in mine, and Sophie's laughter when Jake tells a terrible joke, and Emma stealing the last piece of bacon when she thinks I'm not looking. The present is everything I built from the ashes of what burned down. That Tuesday in March taught me that everything can change in a moment. That the life you think you have can be an illusion. That people you love can betray you in ways you never imagined. But it also taught me that you can survive it. That you can document the truth, fight for what matters, and build something new from the ruins. The security footage sits in its encrypted files, a monument to what was lost. But this kitchen, this family, this life, this is the monument to what was found. And that's the real victory.